Welcome back to XFO Intelligence Podcast, where we dive deep into the innovations shaping tomorrow's world. I'm your host, and today we're discussing something that could fundamentally change how we think about computing itself.
That's right. We're talking about Microsoft's latest breakthrough in microfluidic cooling technology. But more importantly, what our proprietary Deep Augmented Thinking methodology reveals about where this is really heading. And trust me, it's not just about keeping computers cool.
Let's start with what Microsoft actually achieved. They've managed to etch microscopic channels directly into AI chips, bringing liquid coolant within microns of the actual transistors. This reduces thermal resistance by up to 65% compared to traditional methods.
Which sounds incremental, right? Better cooling, fewer servers needed, improved efficiency. But here's where it gets fascinating. When we applied our Deep Augmented Thinking framework to analyze this breakthrough, we discovered something Microsoft probably didn't even realize they created.
Tell us about that. What does Deep Augmented Thinking reveal that conventional analysis misses?
Our methodology operates on three key principles: cross-domain pattern synthesis, temporal scaling analysis, and symbiotic opportunity mapping. When we applied this to Microsoft's innovation, we realized they haven't just created better cooling, they've created the world's first thermally aware computational substrate.
That's a big claim. What does that actually mean for our listeners?
Think about it this way. Traditional computing treats heat as waste, something to get rid of. But Microsoft's microchannels represent a new paradigm where the cooling system becomes an active participant in computation itself. We're looking at the birth of what we call quantum programmable microfluidic networks.
Now you've got my attention. Walk us through this evolution you're describing.
We see three distinct phases. Phase 1, happening now through 2026, is what we call intelligent thermal substrate. The microchannels evolve into smart networks that don't just react to heat, but anticipate it using AI-powered predictive algorithms.
So the cooling system becomes predictive, not just reactive.
Exactly. But that's just the beginning. Phase 2, 2027 to 2029, is where things get really interesting. Computational fluid dynamics. Here, the coolant flow itself becomes a computational medium. The system solves optimization problems naturally through physics rather than digital computation.
You're saying the liquid cooling becomes a processor itself.
In essence, yes. And then phase 3, starting around 2030, this is where it gets almost science fiction-like. Quantum thermal symbiosis, where superfluid states and quantum effects enable what we call negative thermal resistance. The cooling system actually improves computational efficiency beyond what we thought were fundamental limits.
This sounds incredible, but what does this mean practically? How does this change the computing landscape?
The implications are staggering. By 2028, our analysis suggests this approach could enable 10x computational density compared to today's limits, not through smaller transistors, but by eliminating the thermal barrier that constrains 3D chip architectures.
And this impacts more than just Microsoft's data centers, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We're looking at cascading effects across multiple industries. AI development could see training times reduced from weeks to days. Edge computing could bring high-power AI to smartphones and autonomous vehicles. And here's the kicker. Sustainable computing could see data centers with potentially negative power usage effectiveness through waste heat utilization.
Negative power usage. That sounds like getting energy for free.
It's about transforming a fundamental constraint, heat, into a new dimension for innovation. Instead of treating thermal management as a problem to solve, we're looking at heat as a resource to harness.
This deep augmented thinking methodology you're using, it seems to reveal patterns that aren't obvious from conventional analysis.
That's exactly right. It identifies emergent properties that aren't visible when you just look at individual components. For instance, we discovered what we call the thermal memory effect. The system naturally develops intelligence about thermal patterns and pre-adapts to them.
So the system learns and remembers thermal behavior patterns.
Yes, and this isn't programmed. It emerges from the interaction between AI workload scheduling and adaptive microchannels. It's a perfect example of how deep augmented thinking reveals the hidden potential in current innovations.
What should our listeners take away from this? How should they be thinking about this breakthrough?
First, understand that Microsoft has fired the first shot in what will be the next battleground in computing, the intersection of thermodynamics, material science, and AI. The companies that will dominate the next decade aren't necessarily those with the best transistors, but those with the most sophisticated thermal intelligence.
And second,
this represents a fundamental shift in how we approach computational constraints. We're witnessing the birth of a new paradigm where heat isn't wasted but harnessed, where cooling isn't passive but participatory, and where the boundaries between computation and thermodynamics blur into something entirely new.
this is absolutely fascinating stuff. Now, I know our listeners are going to want to dive deeper into this analysis.
Absolutely. We've prepared a comprehensive article that details our complete deep augmented thinking analysis of this breakthrough. It's available for download, and I really encourage everyone to read it. The full methodology reveals even more insights about where this technology is heading.
What should readers focus on when they're going through the article?
Pay attention to the three-phase evolution we outline, but more importantly, think about the emergent properties we describe. The thermal memory effect, computational density multiplication, energy symbiosis. These aren't just theoretical concepts. They represent real opportunities for innovation and investment.
And imagine the possibilities this opens up.
Exactly. We're not just talking about faster computers or more efficient data centers. We're talking about a fundamental reimagining of what computation can be. When you read the article, ask yourself, what industries could be transformed when heat becomes a computational resource rather than a waste product?
That's a powerful question for our listeners to consider. Where can they find this analysis?
The full article is available for download from the link in our comment section. It includes detailed technical analysis, market implications, and strategic recommendations based on our deep augmented thinking methodology.
Finishing thoughts. Before we wrap up, what's your key message for innovators and business leaders listening today?
The future of computing won't be colder. It will be smarter about how it uses heat, and that changes everything. The organizations that recognize this shift early and begin preparing for thermally intelligent computing systems will have a significant competitive advantage.
That's a perfect way to end today's discussion. Remember to download the full article and dive deep into this analysis. Think about the possibilities, imagine how this could transform your industry, and consider how you might participate in this thermal intelligence revolution.
Thanks for joining us on XFO Intelligence Podcast. Until next time, keep thinking beyond the obvious, keep looking for the hidden patterns, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.